Good evening. Yes, thank you. Good evening, cherished community members. This feels so good to be here together tonight. Welcome to Flourishing Families presents This Is My Brave, the show. And you are in for a show tonight. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm Courtney Jolie Loudermilk. I direct Flourishing Families at the Center for Psychiatric Rehabilitation at Boston University. And like tonight, Flourishing Families provides critical support and community to families who've been impacted by mental illness. So parents, guardians, caregivers, families. Tonight, though, is a first of its kind event. We are elevating family stories on a global stage. Yes, this was made possible by our friends at the Ruderman Family Foundation, an organization dedicated to the inclusion of people with disabilities across society. And, yes, and with the friendship and partnership of This Is My Brave, an organization that uses this evidence-based art form of storytelling to save lives. Storytelling saves lives. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen tonight. Whew, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen tonight. These 8 storytellers are going to embrace you with their lived experience as caregivers, okay? Where I come from, this means one thing. We embrace them back. Yeah? Okay. All right, beautiful. Okay, so what this means is we hold their truths with them. We hold hope with them. And we hold the responsibility and the opportunity to sustain our brave beyond tonight, to talk about mental illness in the spaces we occupy. Okay? We have a vision that one day we will live in a society where talking about mental illness will not be called brave. It'll simply be called talking. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Before we start the show, I'd like to remind you that some of the topics covered in the stories tonight may feel tender for you. And so I'd want to just offer some content warnings and some resources. In your playbill on page 23 are some resources. We want to please make sure that you are taking care of yourselves tonight, as the topics in the stories touch on self-harm, substance use, hospitalization, domestic violence, and suicide. If you are here in the WBUR CitySpace and would like to take a break from the show, please do. Please take care of yourselves. If you exit the theater, to the left are restrooms, and to the right, past the double glass doors, is Commonwealth Avenue for some fresh air. If you are joining us on live stream, you can mute or pause the live stream as needed. When you are ready to come back, we will be here. Okay? Also in the playbill, on page 7, some audience etiquette. Good reminder to please take a moment and silence your cell phones. If you haven't, can you just do a check? We hope that following the show, you will stay and be here in community to celebrate these storytellers. We'll serve light refreshments in the lobby. There are many resources that are available from our national and international partners in mental health and advocacy. And we'll be there, okay? Cool. Let's get this show started. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you so, so much for being here. And I'd like to, yes, thank you. And it's my honor to welcome the first storyteller to the stage, Suzanne.
Letting go. April 2020. Day 46 of COVID lockdown. Julia, my daughter, declared her independence today. Independence from Zoom, from school, from me directing school, from me. She screamed at me and to herself. She cried. She stormed around the house. She threatened. She tried to hurt me. My need to get her out of the house and moving her body competes with my need to keep us safe from COVID. It's raining and 40 degrees. She refuses to walk outside. There's nowhere to walk inside. We are not doing well. It is Julia's junior year in high school, and so far nothing has gone well. Nothing has gone as planned, and I did have a plan. I always have plans. We moved from Wisconsin to Massachusetts last summer, and I underestimated the upheaval of the move. Julia misses everything. Schoolmates, teachers, therapists, our church, our friends, the four walls of our home. In Massachusetts, she's on lists. Lists for a psychologist, a speech therapist, a peer mentor, some kind of respite provider. For the first time in 12 years, she has no therapeutic support outside of school, and school has shut down. Days before shutdown, Julia refused to take the special ed bus to school. And when I drove her in, she melted down outside of school. Inside the building, she banged her head against the wall hard enough to raise alarm about concussion. And then lockdown. Julia's on the autism spectrum. She lives with anxiety and the result of early trauma. She thrives on predictable routine. I like predictable routine too, but she doesn't need it like I do. She needs it like a diabetic needs insulin. And there has not been one day since March 12th that has been allowed to be predictable. During the first 2 weeks of shutdown, we made a schedule. School-related tasks, a walk, cello, chores, a puzzle, and her iPad as a reward. It was a version of the daily work that she's done for years at home and what's kept her on an even keel. She was doing okay. Then the third week of lockdown, virtual school began. Our schedule discarded. Class via Zoom by day and homework by night, just like real school, except nobody left the kitchen table. Didn't go smoothly. The first Monday, homework was posted on teacher websites and on Schoolology, the learning management system. Julia could not organize her work looking at multiple websites. I proposed coaching her through organization, but teacher websites conflicted with Schoolology, and sometimes we couldn't find the homework at all. She became frustrated. And the schedule didn't make sense. Her Monday morning meeting with her inclusion facilitator overlapped with speech group. Art class was scheduled without a Zoom link. History and biology were scheduled at the same time, and there were no aides to help her at all in any of her classes. And then there was Zoom. When it didn't work, it could be Julia's Chromebook, or the apps, or our home internet connection, or the teacher's Chromebook, or her network connection, or the school network, or school itself, Zoom itself. And this went on and on, day after day. Julia sat in front of a computer that didn't take her to class at least part of every day. She was frustrated every day. Every time she hit a snag, I had to make school work. And time after time, I failed, making her even more frustrated. And so today, Julia declared her independence. No Zoom, no schoolwork, no telling her what to do, ever again. And I am out of ideas. Julia's inclusion facilitator says, let Julia be, just let go of everything. For how long? I don't know. I don't know if I know how to let go. Increasingly, when she is free, Julia lives in a fantasy world of teen sex and anime violence. Lots of blood and boys obsessed with her. She talks to herself. She resents being pulled into the reality of our lives, which, at least to me, is not so bad. And just what am I supposed to let go of? I have been Julia's frontal lobe, her Jiminy Cricket, her social planner. I'm the person who tells her to look both ways at every street corner, who organizes activities, who reminds her to say thank you, reminds her to set my place at the table as well as hers, reminds her of doc appointments and bedtime. And Julia is tired of all that. So am I. But what do I let go of? I have let go of so many aspirations for Julia. She makes art, but she's content with drawing in a compulsive, repetitive way. She has a deep imagination, but it's used for boys and bloody anime. When she's highly agitated, she writes cogently, but she does not use that focus for school or creative expression. It is her teachers, her aides, her therapists, and me who have forced her to learn everything from numbers to folding her clothes. I have taught her so much, and she has internalized so little of what she needs to live in this world. And so, what happens if I let go? If I stop insisting on getting schoolwork done, on reading and math, if I stop reminding her of doc appointments, of going to bed or taking a shower. People say I've done a good job raising Julia, but I have not managed to instill ambition or curiosity, a love for anything or anyone that would inspire her to strive, to be, or to do. Maybe it couldn't be done. Maybe I did not do what she needed. Maybe. Trying my best has not been good enough. Years ago, before Julia's diagnoses, I wrote that I was only equipped to love her, and love wasn't enough. Today, I amend that to say I have been equipped with love and years of research and learning, brilliant teachers, generous aides, incredible therapists, kind respite providers, and a warm community of friends. And none of that has been enough. Today, Julia declared her independence. My name is Suzanne, and this is my brave. And now, I'd like to introduce my friend and newfound sister, the next storyteller, Carla.
People. Oops, give me 1 second. Hello, everybody. My story is called A Healing Space. I was broken, newly divorced and childless. Would my dreams of becoming a mom ever happen? After lots of coaxing and hand-holding by a good girlfriend, I became a foster mom to a beautiful 10-day-old baby boy. The birth mother permanently lost her other 10 children to the system. Baby boy, JC, was number 11. And I was judgy at first. Then I learned about her horrific childhood. Her life was marred with agony, loss, and pain from trauma, mental health conditions, and physical ailments. Over time, I went from being judgmental to my heart aching for her. Her life was the ultimate example of intergenerational trauma. Within 6 months, JC was reunified with his birth mom, so my services were no longer needed. But I needed baby JC to be safe. The judge got it wrong. His birth mother was ill-prepared to raise an infant. Despite advice to move on from lots of people, I decided to get in touch with the birth mother. I had about a week of sleepless nights, wondering if he had diapers, if he was sleeping, if he had formula, if he was safe. But when I called her, she sounded relieved to hear from me. That was the beginning of our 6-year journey into co-parenting. One day, the birth mother hit me in the face really hard in front of 5-year-old JC over nothing. It was time for me to wake up. I wasn't protecting this precious child at all. If she would hit me, who knows what was happening to him when I wasn't around. After all, they survived in an environment of domestic violence, drugs, weapons, hoarding, and toxic stress. It was a part of life. Up until that slap, I tried to show the birth mother that there are people who care with no ulterior motive. I was so caught up in keeping things calm and safe that I made poor decisions. I took care of the birth family's essentials, so food, clothing, and shelter. Most of my loved ones didn't know. I even bought her a modest home. I went into debt to the tune of about $100,000, supporting 2 households. When all was said and done, I was depleted mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. The day she slapped me, I dropped to my knees and I asked God for guidance. Things escalated even more around kindergarten or first grade when he started talking about suicide. JC was entered into a mental health facility and later he was admitted for the long haul. The birth mother was concerned that the system was going to take him away like her other 10 children, and I get that. I stepped out on faith, found an attorney, and gained custody and restraining orders. Next came temporary and permanent custody. Then came the diagnosis of PTSD. My 6-year-old baby had a diagnosis of PTSD. By the time JC turned 8, I became his adoptive mom, a real mom. I spent so many years trying to prove that I was a mom. Enough, though, I was a mom even though I had not given birth. I was finally a real mom in the lives of other people. My self-esteem was in there somewhere, and I began to feel it. I had everything I had prayed for, but I was not healing. I lived in hypervigilance mode for so long that even when the threat from his birth parents was gone, I could not relax. Trauma engulfed me. Then there was the excess weight and debt, the visible signs of trauma. 40 pounds overweight, $100,000 in debt, I was pre-diabetic, all from the journey to my son. He was and is more than worth it. Like him, I needed time and space to heal. Whew. It's been more than a decade since JC came into my life. Now he feels safe. JC is more than a survivor. He is thriving despite his trauma. As his advocate, I provide or find what he needs as he grows into a young adult. He's now 13. We have setbacks. In fact, his birth mother recently died from fentanyl. It hurt him so much, and my emotions were all over the place. Yes, I put him first. Yes, I crashed and burned. We continue to process the loss individually and together. I really needed help. I started seeing a therapist. I have diagnoses of anxiety and depression. I go to therapy, I exercise, I find time for myself. I found my healing space. Who am I today? A mother, a staunch advocate for children, mental health change advocate, and debt-free, except for that mortgage. I've been reinvented, not by design, but by my life's journey. Through the pain, I found purpose. I found purpose in speaking up in advocacy. I'm a woman who has learned the hard way that putting myself first isn't selfish, it's necessary. My name is Carla, and this is my brave. so happy to introduce you all to our next storyteller, my new sister who traveled here all the way from Trinidad and Tobago, Charlene.
Give me the music. Give me the red, white, and black. 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 Give me the red, white, and black.
Mother TNT. Greetings, everyone. I am humbled, honored, and privileged to be a part of this forum. I am a hurt mother. My truth is titled Lost Files. I live in this beautiful twin island republic of Trinidad and Tobago, famous for our steel band, calypso, tassa, and our unique diversity of races. We have the greatest show on earth, Carnival. However, beneath that beauty, we have issues like any other country. Here lies the horror of institutions and establishments that have evolved from a terrible cover-up. The traumas of these historical ills have never been dealt with, as now these mental health challenges collide with those personal issues that are now a facet of everyday living. My society has an interesting history of lost files that go missing from time to time, namely Cordell Cordner, 2007 to 2011, sorry. He's my son. My son. My son. I know a handsome, bubbly boy full of laughter and ambition. I know a son of great character, care, empathy, and love. I birthed a boy, my son, one and only, loved unconditionally and unreservedly. I saw him grow into a responsible, conscious individual committed to a life of service to country. Now I spend my days and nights living with the tragic results of broken dreams, embarrassment, shame, and despair, of institutional dishonesty, of thwarted ambitions, all culminating in a lost file. So how does a mother who has paved my life's devotion, a devotion only a mother knows, can a woman forget her nursing child and not have compassion on the son of her womb? Surely they may forget, yet I will not forget you. You see, I have inscribed on the palms of my very hands, your walls are continually before me. Isaiah 49, verses 15 to 23. How do I watch my son of my womb grown into manly promise? How do I watch my dreams evaporate along with his? There was this night deeply entrenched in my mind. We had an intense discussion, and thereafter, he couldn't stay still or confined to our living space. So he quickly kicked out the front door, jumped the fence of the gate in pain, anger, sobbing uncontrollably with a phrase of, "Mommy, Mommy." There are more questions than answers. So many pictures in my mind that will not show. The more I find out, the less I know. My healthy son reported for duty one day, and by midday, I received a call that a parent never wants to hear. To date, I have not received the official scary details of a mission at sea gone awry, being left to die in the murky, deep North Coast waters, unconscious, with no real-time record or written account of. Mommy, 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 is this my reward for service to country? What have I done to deserve this treatment? I have not committed a crime. Oh God, mommy. Physical wounds heal when cared for. Institutions created for us or by us. Still, we cannot account for so many untold stories. There is recurring history of colonized people. We have exchanged, and these have been replaced by people whose minds and attitudes are confused. The education system not geared to elucidate our powers within. Apart from specific training in psychic entrenched violence in our society, we have difficulties dealing with mental health issues. And some of the traits are laughter, denial, and the stigma. We sometimes distance ourselves by the very established institutions, which can be described as demonized literally and figuratively. We insulate ourselves from the pain, suffering, and the stigma experienced by the mentally challenged. In our helplessness and ignorance, those affected are left to suffer in the world that trauma has created in the mind, the body, soul, and spirit. Hobbled by this helplessness, we tend to turn away what is there to be done. I have faced that demon of helplessness, fear, and concern. Up at the midnight hour before the dawn of the day, I have cried so many tears, said so many prayers, but my God. However, I have been driven by unconditional love. Unconditional love has driven me to seek and find answers in this forum or global platform. No one even sought to think that mental wounds would also need healing, compounded by betrayal, lack of recognition, cover up by the mystery of a lost file. But physical wounds, though ostensibly healed, remain constant in the mind's eye. In my pain and grief as his mother, even with hope, I look to the outcome of healing and restoration. There is the sound of silence from batchmates, seniors, neighbors, attorneys, medical practitioners, family members, friends, and authority figures. However, mental disability, his feet trapped, PTSD diagnosis, misunderstood bitterness, and resentment placed in a miscellaneous group, unresolved, they deem it. Today, the spirit of that bubbly young man no longer exists. His confidence and dreams have disappeared and replaced with anger and drowning sorrows of the bottle. Our lives have changed, be it for better or whatever. Our lives have changed, be it for better or really whatever. Our lives have changed, be it for better or really whatever. Now, we have committed to educate, advocate, and restore whilst getting to the heart of the matter. Our nonprofit organization, Mental Health Reality Wellness, Trinidad and Tobago. I am founder, president, and surely will make a difference globally in the lives of mentally challenged individuals and their families. The world is my stage whenever I speak. This is my brave. I am Charlene Cordner. It is my pleasure to welcome our next storyteller, my new sister, Camilla. Please come.
My maiden name is Camila Joy Hazard. I spent the first 38 years of my life focusing on how ironic that name was. Perfection, joy, and danger is how it translates. None of those words were reflections of me, but nowadays I love to emphasize that my middle name is Joy. After years of grasping at straws and searching for my path to mental and emotional healing, I finally found it. So now I teach others the techniques that I use to help narrow their search. Today, I'm a 44-year-old divorced mother of two, a nana to 5, and a certified well-being practitioner to some. At age 18, with my 3-year-old daughter in tow, I met my ex-husband. He and I quickly built a wicked awesome trauma bond and vowed to break the cycle of abuse and neglect together. Within a few short months, I was pregnant with my second miracle. We were running on love, the way that Massachusetts runs on Dunkin', for years. No financial plan, no place of our own to live, no follow through with any of the plans that we did make. All we had to get us by were warm and fuzzy feelings. Struggle and chaos were our way of life. That turned out to be extremely convenient for him later on, as his charisma turned into an obnoxious city boy persona, his fun-loving jokes turned into verbal abuse, our financial struggles became my financial struggles, and the warm, fuzzy feelings fizzled. But for him, it was never necessary to have them anyway, because you don't need warm, fuzzy feelings to perform non-consensual physical acts on a regular basis, now do you? As our children grew older and the marriage grew more and more toxic, I knew there'd be a high chance of mental illness creeping in and violating the well-being of our children. Mental illness runs through my side of the family, deviously grasping tightly to the men for the most part. I just didn't know when, where, or how it would invade and settle in. My daughter, she took the brunt of the toxicity in the household while taking on responsibilities of a big sister and then some. Her stepfather berated her almost daily over the most minuscule tasks while I was at work. I should have sold sneakers instead of insurance, because that way I'd be dressed and ready to play referee every night when I got home from work. During her teenage years, all she wanted to do was escape. I didn't see that clearly back then, but I could see the pain. All she wanted to do was escape. I did see the pain in her at times, but she dressed it up really well, especially for her age. Now that she's an adult with a family of her own, I can see her illnesses packed in baggage that I helped stack on her shoulders. So I experienced an endless cycle of suppressed memories coming back to the surface. Forgiveness for myself, forgiveness for others, trying to make amends, rinse and repeat. My second miracle, my son, was found to be suffering from generalized intellectual disabilities after an evaluation in kindergarten. But don't worry, there's help from faculty and other agencies who specialize in handling these situations, right? If you find scrutiny, judgment, misinformation, and pushback helpful when it comes to important decisions about your child's future, then help is everywhere. If being made to feel like there's no possible way you'll ever be qualified to make these decisions for your child seems helpful from your perspective, then yes, help is everywhere. Despite those past experiences, at age 21, my son, he'd been highly functional for about a year while working 2 jobs and completing his high school equivalency certification. But enter COVID. My son's illnesses compact with extreme levels of fear, highly impulsive tendencies. And if you mix those 2 ingredients with a worldwide pandemic and 1 YouTube video about global warming, and we've baked up a mental and emotional health crisis, a crisis that he did not want his mother's help with. Even in crisis, though, when his 23rd birthday hit, I saw that Leo fire in his eyes again. He was excited to get out and work, make new friends. He set some new goals, but that fire dimmed slowly and eventually extinguished after a few phone calls and short visits with his father. Our family's large. My son would eventually allow help in, but not until after his struggle became unbearable. He started to reach out to me, my spouse, his aunts, uncles, his cousins, and sister for daily positivity and received an abundance of loving support. My daily 2-hour conversations were no opponent to the 2 sentences that would replay in my son's head after speaking with his father for 10 minutes a day. Don't trust anyone around you. Everyone's out to get you. The fear and paranoia led my son to a facility for the first time 1 month ago. It led me back in time. What played in my mind was the eerie creaks of an old escape hatch that I thought I'd managed to weld shut forever. I managed to keep the ideations at bay, but I never really forget about them, no matter how long they lie dormant. During his 10 days of intense treatment, I received tons of loving advice, well wishes, and awkward silences. The awkward silence hollered, "It can't be his dad's fault. You must be bitter. No one would purposely do that to someone they love." Because of my lived experience, I can not only say that people do things like this just for fun, but I can tell you how they do it and how to heal from it. Celebrating the light as it returns to my son's eyes, sharing his excitement in finding new beauty in old things, and watching him set new goals are all that I need to pick up the pieces of this practitioner's ego, grow joy in her soul, and continue to support her son in finding the help that suits him. This, my friends, is my brave, not yours. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to welcome our next storyteller, Jean.
Thank you. Person. My right hand is on the bronze doorknob when I realize it's locked. I bang on the door, begging my person to let me in. Silence. I run to the office and open a desk drawer, scraping my knuckles because I claw at the drawer when it doesn't open instantly from my desperation. I shove things around and find a large silver paperclip. I unbend the paperclip to make a crooked, straightish wire, which I think will work. I go back to the locked doorknob and fit the wire through the slot to click, pop open the lock. I store the unbent clip above on the door jamb for next time. I enter darkness and I see a glow from under a large pile of white with black checks, sheets, and duvet cover. I hear voices from underneath the duvet. I go to the bed and see my person staring close at a bright talking face of a makeup tutorial character. My person looks at me, eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here? Leave me alone." I sit. I finally say it. "I thought maybe you were dead." "I'm not," my person says slowly, pulling the phone closer, lights and shadows and cheery eyebrow hacks filling the cave of sheets. This is a story about my COVID fall 2020 of looking for toilet paper, beginning a sourdough starter, and bringing my student person home from their nearby college on short notice. It was also about despair. I was flailing, talking to counselors, driving my person to the psychiatrist again and again. I hoped maybe these new meds would help. How many hopes can I have? How many plans can I make and then change? Earlier that week, days before the paperclip episode, I knew things had changed. Things were worse. Of course, I'd changed too. No more! I screamed at myself when everyone in the house was asleep. I had scrambled to change everything I could. I'd even changed careers. That fall, I had found a job that allowed me to telework, to be at home, and monitor my person more closely. I had abandoned plan after plan for myself and my person, shifted priority after priority because, after all, the only priority really was keeping my person alive. I'd been practicing in the hospital in a mask and was terrified of COVID. All the while, I watched as online university courses failed my person, who sank deeper and deeper into the bed with each week of lockdown. But of course, things had changed for my person. After we had a things are worse Zoom meeting with the therapist, I blinked to chase away tears as I went through the drawers in the bathroom and removed all the sharps. No more splinter removal tweezers, no more pointy nail scissors. I inventoried the kitchen knives and put the sharpest ones in a blue plastic container under sheets in the attic. I threw all the Venus leg razors in the trash and emptied it. And useless, I thought, all of this, crying by the garbage cans outside the kitchen window, wondering what else I will need to throw away. In a November 2020 Zoom therapy call, I sat in with my person while we discussed the therapist's COVID ideas for hospitalization. My person was safe for now, but things needed to change. We withdrew my person from university and began the agony of waiting for a place to open in a rehab program in Wisconsin. We live in Maryland. Finally, in February 2021, after weeks of a haze of surveillance and terror, we got a call to bring my person to the program. I charged the airfare and rental car to get us there, plus hotel, plus my entire co-insurance for the year, $5,000, all on my credit card. I felt excited about getting help. Maybe someone else could know the person under the bed sheets. When had I stopped knowing this person? We had tickets to go and a plan. I felt better. We arrived in Wisconsin to 2 feet of snow, negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The end of that journey was a solid thunk of a thick metal door, painted cream, no windows, closing to lock me out. My person, my child, was in the care of someone else. I went back to the rental car and I wanted to cry and couldn't move. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel, which had already gone cold. After 5 weeks, we got 24 hours notice that my person was done. The insurance company would no longer pay for the care. There was improvement, and my person must leave or we would be charged thousands of dollars. We begged for 48 hours because I live so far away. And again, I charged the trip up to Wisconsin to get my person back. I hugged my person, smelled their hair deeply, and felt shoulder blades through thin skin. We stood together by a gray frozen lake, and in a brief conversation of frosty puffs in the air, my person told me of the hospital unit trips they didn't make because of COVID restrictions and lack of staff. But sometimes the group came there to the lake to walk around. My person was taking 5 medications, but didn't feel much better. It has been a long journey since then, literally a journey, as we tried to get my person into a step-down program in Maryland, no staff due to COVID, and then tried a Zoom-based partial hospitalization that COVID-era telehealth rules required us to rent rooms in New Jersey. Brigantine Beach was a fun Airbnb with a Murphy bed I charged on my credit card. And then, again, up to New Hampshire. The White Mountains were cold with snowpack and tall fir trees in the early spring. Finally, after another 6 weeks, my person had enough. Mom, I'm done. I'm not getting anything out of this. Let's go home. So we did. Things are up and down. My person returned to university, started activities again, seeing friends, and eventually reduced the medications to 2 solid ones that work a bit. My person hugs our dog. My person is safe in our home. I think of my fractures this experience has exposed and how it continues to pry them open. Is it the experiences or maybe my own shame about them that open more wounds in me? The shame. I feel shame about my failure to fix things, about my desire to fix things, about my fantasy that there is a fix that I could implement in a magical maternal way, about my failure to love my person enough to avoid a fate like some in my family who have lived with depression. And shame about the credit card debt that I continue to pay off. I keep thinking about that sourdough starter. It's in a crock deep in the back of the fridge. I had thought bread making would be a great distraction during lockdown until I realized that I couldn't buy the flour to feed the starter so it would stay alive. So it's still sitting there. I bet it's funky and watery, waiting for me to pay attention to it again and feed it to make it live again. Unlikely. I wonder about telling you my story. Revisiting it feels hard. It really hurts. But I'm so grateful to my person because they told me about their pain and let me try to help. I used person here in my story to be more private, but also because many of the specifics of my experience don't matter much. You know, the story is mine and my person's, but maybe it's also yours, or your friends, or your parents. My story is so much more complicated, and it is still unfolding. I still have hope, and sharing eases the shame. My name is Jean, and this is my brave. Now it's my very great honor to welcome our next storyteller, Crystal, to the podium.
Good evening. I know that I will always be considered the baby of the family, no matter how old I get. Although I have reached the ripe age of 50, been married, have 4 kids, and tend to be the keeper of our family, planning and organize family events in my attempts to keep us connected and unified. I know despite the strength, the hope, and resiliency it's taken to be able to forge the path that I have for myself, my kids, my career, a path that's littered with desperate prayers, so many tears, so much trauma, heartache, and pain, I can almost guarantee you that when I call my mom and I have a point to share with her, she's gonna call me her baby. I know that although I react in exasperation because I'm usually telling her something serious and I'm on my soapbox and here she goes calling me, you little baby. And it completely deflates me and my flow. However, I know I've come to appreciate that pause, no matter how much I scoff at it. Because I know for this Black woman living with depression and social anxiety, a mother where 3 of my 4 children are living with substance use disorder, and 2 of those 3 have been chronically as house, has changed me. I know not knowing from one moment to the next if I'll hear news that one of them has overdosed or that their body has been identified is an insidious nightmare that I desperately want to wake from. I know as the dreams I had for my children, for my family, appear to be slipping away, it's left me teetering in a constant state of fight or flight as the days turned into months and then years, and seeing my babies adjusting to the life of addiction, life on the streets, fear and separation becomes the new norm, right alongside shame and blame, because where did I go wrong? It is often what we as parents think. I know. With these hurtful thoughts in mind, I know, however, I am a fighter, not a quitter. I will step out from my comfort zone to seek the help and changes that we need, to seek and learn what I need to advocate for myself and my family. I know. As I sought help, however, I know the disillusionment that many attempts we've made to navigate mental health system that says it's for everyone, but really it isn't. It devastated me, because what should I do now? I know that I learned, no matter how many agencies have posted their policies regarding equity, diversity, and inclusion, that didn't necessarily mean us. The message was clear that we didn't fit. I know. I know for many, their bias will cause them to make assumptions about who we are and govern the effectiveness of the care we will or won't receive when reaching out for support and services. I know I'm tired of needing to be resilient, to identify new tools, to advocate for change that should already be in place as I continuously learn how to navigate this tumultuous path chosen for me. Regardless, I refuse to allow even that to stop me. I know the struggle we face has opened my eyes to a world that holds the darkest of dark and the brightest of bright. My friends, my family, and network of supports, they do shine so bright. I know now a level of compassion, empathy, understanding, grace I know I would have never have gained without the struggles that we face. I know now the adversity I faced has provided unimaginable opportunities to grow and multitude of doors to open. I know now a sense of hope and joy and possibility. I know as a woman, a mom, a mental health professional, and an advocate for change, I do have a voice that I will continue to fight, to be the advocate, that change agent, and hopefully a bright source of light. Because I know that I am worth it. My family is worth it. We all are worth it. I know. My name is Crystal Livingston, and this is my brave. Thank you. And with great pleasure, I welcome my new sister, Wen Ling, to the stage.
No one ever told me the toughest decision as a parent ever since my firstborn came into this world on the Mother's Day, 2003, is to decide whether to repeat or rewrite the patterns of narratives that has shaped me who I am today. One practice that I have vowed to never, ever repeat was to scrutinize or discourage my children's tears and crying. I will always vividly remember my mama yelling on top of her lungs at my crying younger sister, 恁祖公代志好人算, which literally means your ancestors must have been buried in the mount crying south. Whenever I hear children crying persistently, especially my own, that record plays in my mind. It is a good thing my kids don't understand my mother tongue in Taiwanese. Even if they might hear me saying that accidentally, they just might sense the anger expressed in that phrase. They can't possibly know or understand what has anyone's ancestral burial site have anything to do with the kids crying or stop crying. Me either, even this day. I might have learned somehow to not cry too much as a young child. However, I understand that my sister often needed to process her disappointments and injustices with tears. I, as an over-functioning adult in coping with my own anxiety, I have now understood that both my children might have learned to cope with their own anxiety with minor addictions. I call them minor because the police most likely will never come after them for their unstoppable consumptions of gaming videos on YouTube, relentless exercising, or constant Snapchatting with their own pictures. I see my children coping with their anxiety in ways that I never taught them. Or did I? To repeat or to rewrite is a question I constantly ask myself as I hear my children, especially the young adult firstborn, calling to connect on FaceTime without words, except with tears streaming the cheeks. I have to first hold on to my own anxiety, to their hurts, while reminding myself there's no need to say anything, but simply to be present to their pains, tears, silence, and awe. Tell me more, I would say. If I could muster enough any brave from the reserve and remind myself I do not need to fix my children's problems immediately or all the time. It is plenty just to be present and to hear with curiosity whatever they want to share or however they needed to process. Maybe their latest heartaches, failed exams, or losses. Regardless what they called about, I want to make sure that I don't repeat any phrases or actions that might stifle or discourage their expressions of emotions, especially in tears. The last thing that I want was for me to make them feel scrutinized of her feelings, actions, or reactions from life's disappointments, injustice, or as my younger sister was often called out for her tears. When I first learned to speak and function in English, I heard about this idea that family traits or dispositions could skip a generation. I never knew such a concept before I moved to the United States from Taiwan. But ever since I learned after his death that my late father has successfully intervened his own father's attempted suicide, I have been praying, I've been hoping that this suicide attempt or ideation would skip my generations and all the generations to come. Maybe, just maybe, my support and love for my children and others might just rewrite some stories. To support my children and others in their expressing or processing of disappointments and injustices in the world through tears, just might rewrite all sorts of possibilities of this world. Would you pray with me? Ultimate intervener. In this very moment right now, someone is believing, thinking that suicide is their only way to be or to ease their pains and suffering. I ask you to remind them of the times when they were loved and are still loved, when they matter and still matter. Send people who can stop their attempt. Give the words to those that perhaps call them by accident or they call for help. To those who lost their beloved through suicide, we thank you for receiving their beloved into your everlasting arms, and we ask you to give comfort and peace beyond their imagination. To those who will be hearing the stories shared tonight, live or on demand, we ask you to help them rewrite what is to be written. And we thank you for all the stories tonight that have blessed us in ways that is going to surprise us, jostle us. With all these and more, we pray. And would you say it with me? Ashe. Shalom. Amen. My name is Wenling, and this is my brave. Y'all are in for a treat. Y'all are in for a treat. It is my honor and my pleasure to welcome our next, final, and the most sweet sister of mine, the storyteller, Kotiva, and so many words to the stage.
Hello. They told me to write in the midst of my pain, cry words onto blank page, expose self and experience on public stage, but this is hard. See, I don't write from a dark space. I paint pretty pictures is what they say, so I can't relate. Don't know the torment of depression and suicide, besides I'm always happy. Out of touch with reality, so that real life, it doesn't affect me. Never made me feel less than mom because I couldn't scare away a boogeyman.
Couldn't cover hurts of violation when she was violated, now she's coming undone. Seeing things that ain't there. Shadows overpower me because it's hard to fight what I can't see, and she's afraid, y'all. Can't articulate the adrenaline that's making her want to run, and I'm out of shape. I'm supposed to be mom. Supposed to be the one, but can't keep up with the pain, and I don't know what she's running from. See, I'm raising queens. Focused on poise and grace, and while warrior is in her blood, violation is hard to erase, so you survive. Leaving with what they didn't take, now afraid to shine, because your light was in their face, and all I want to do is tell her she is still mommy's princess. You are still as regal as the day you were born. I named you rain, but I should have named you storm, but she don't want to hear my wit. She want to take sleeping pills and slit her wrists. She wants the pain to stop. She wants the memories to fade. She wants one good reason not to swallow this blade, and I'm supposed to protect her. Supposed to be her mother. I was supposed to convey that I would fight fire with boxing gloves made of gasoline for her. Peel the skin off of monsters for her. That I have that kind of love, but what do you do when the fight is in her head? Now I'm fighting for her life with medications instead. And I just want to tell her, my dearest Ngazi, my gift from the gods, you are so much more than what has happened to you. And sometimes the universe allows its strongest to go through. Know that the Creator created you with diamond dust. Out of all the materials in the world, that's some of the strongest stuff, and you made it through. So please, find reasons to live. You owe it to you. There are brighter days ahead. There was so much more living to do. And your mommy, I'll sleep on the floor with the light under the bed if I have to, just to help you feel safe. There's so much strength in you. It's just lost its place. You are not broken. You are stronger. You are not damaged. You are a survivor. You're not baggage. You are valuable. You're not a hazard. You are lovable. You are kind and unique. You are important and sweet. You are witty and innovative. You are gorgeous and beautiful. You are wanted. You are enough. You weathered the storms when things got tough. You weren't lost to the darkness. You are still my empress, still strong, still a fighter, still my baby, still a survivor, still loved, still an artist, still here, still be here, just be here. She was afraid of the dark, allowing her monsters to scare away the mom stuff in her. She left us. Let us be victimized by a system set up to victimize the young, the children of the children who had them. Foster homes and group homes as playpens, and when the crawl was done and the walk was won, now you off to the big pen. They're building them. Building them based on the births of these babies. This system's crazy. My mommy. And he made it to the 6th grade. And at the age of 31, he made it to a sick grave, a bed of dirt laid out for him. He was dirt, they said. He did dirt, I heard. Our lives are composed of the choices we make. He chose sex, drugs, then Christ. AIDS escorted him to a heavenly prom, and on his deathbed, this is what he said. Tay-Tay, move this pillow and put some paper under my head. See, my father, he was an artist. And when the doctors came to take me away, he said, what did you say your name is? Y'all, he met God with my name in his mouth, and though he was a rolling stone, leaving us on our own, what more could I ask of him? I was born. She was 15. She started using at 16. I was born. He was 18. He started using at 13. Nobody governs the children. Nobody told them to save themselves. Nobody said she was worth saving.
Nobody told them that there was no love at the bottom of a bottle, end of a stem, or indulge in some sex acts they had no business in. Babies, you are not ugly. Babies, you are not mistakes. Babies, you are loved. You are blessed. And babies, you are here on purpose. I am Quatavia in so many words, and this is my brave.
Go ahead, you give it to him again. Yeah, our brave cast was able to shine a light tonight on a topic we do not talk about enough, especially for caregivers. And I'd like to take a moment to ask you to be brave with us. And if you are in the audience and could stand or wave a hand or whatever's comfortable for you, if you yourself have experienced a mental health or substance use condition, or you love someone who has, please stand or raise a hand. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. We are all affected by mental illness, and simply being here today is an incredible effort to sustain the movements, to sustain our brave, to stay open and supportive to those who need us, our neighbors, our family members, our friends, as voters. This is what it means to be brave. If you were moved by what you witnessed tonight and would like to contribute to This Is My Brave, on the back side of the playbill is some information about how to make a donation, and they thank you for your support. But first, how about we give these brilliant storytellers another round of applause, please. Please stay. Let's be in community. In the lobby are light refreshments. You can congratulate these storytellers. And there are lots of resources out there from our national and international partners. If you're joining online, thank you. We'll make sure we share them with you. Thank you for being here tonight. Have a great evening.